Welcome to Dodgers Daily. Casey Porter here, joined by Austin Brubaker. It's been a minute since Friday when we had the, if you would, Dodgers Daily Squares, if you would, Friday night where we had everybody on. But hey, Austin, it's great to see your face. We are hunkering down for a oncoming snowstorm, so I need some advice. I know you're used to dealing with those.
Okay. So I guess the question is, because I'm not familiar, I've never been to the state of Oklahoma before. How often does it happen when you guys get snow? And if you get like a small coating of snow, like maybe an inch of snow, does everybody just go all crazy and everything?
Yeah, this one's going to be, they're saying anywhere from 4 to 8 inches, possibly 10 inches in spots. That will shut down Oklahoma for 5 days.
Yeah, no, that's not that's just a normal day here in the state of Michigan. You'll be fine. Just don't worry about it. Especially with Oklahoma, don't be on the roads a whole lot, and then you guys will be fine.
Yeah. Okay, so the big news in Dodger land is kind of surprised me. Didn't. I mean, I think we all knew that Michael Ciani was the candidate to be the DFA guy to make room for Kyle Tucker. The only surprising part of that is I thought it might come in trade, and I thought Ryan Ward might be a big part of that trade, actually, to make room for that 40-man spot. That did not happen. So Michael Ciani was the one that was the DFA to make room for Kyle Tucker. Now, here's where this still makes sense, okay? For one, you still might get Michael Ciani back. Yes. This happens all the time. It happened with Nabil Creasmont a couple of years ago. To Nelson Lamet, it happened with him. It's happened with it's happened with several different people. So first of all, you might get Michael Ciani back. Second of all, that doesn't mean the Dodgers still aren't going to trade Michael Ciani. That just means that they needed to make room for Kyle Tucker right now. So the Dodgers now have 7 days to find a trade partner for Michael Ciani. They can still trade him in the DFA process if they so choose to do that.
Yeah, so it was a fascinating question because they needed to open up a roster spot when Kyle Tucker was assigned or reportedly signed to Los Angeles Dodgers. That is now official. The press conference for Kyle Tucker actually was earlier today. I'm sure we might have a little bit of discussion continuing on with Kyle Tucker, but there was a corresponding move that had to be made. And I think you're absolutely right. Some of the potential trades for either a Ryan Ward or somebody potentially like a Bobby Miller were a couple of names that were out there. I think the reason why the Dodgers didn't move off those two guys is because they did not, in the time period in which they got Kyle Tucker, find a trade piece that they seemed suitable. So you remember earlier this offseason, they added Robinson Ortiz to the 40-man roster, but they decided to move off of him by trading him to the Seattle Mariners for a pitcher named Tyler Goff. That was because they found a trade piece that was worthy of somebody like a Robinson Ortiz, even though they knew they were not going to keep him around forever on the 40-man roster. When you're talking about somebody like Ryan Ward, I think he's kind of in a similar situation to what Robinson Ortiz was going to be a free agent going into this offseason. The Dodgers added him to the 40-man roster to protect him from minor league free agency. And now that they have that option blocked, now that they have Ryan Ward's position blocked, they're looking for some sort of trade partner. My guess is over the past couple of days, that has been a name that has been brought up by the Los Angeles Dodgers, only because there really isn't any role for Ryan Ward to be able to fill. I don't think it's going to come in the fourth outfield because I still think they need somebody to be able to help cover center field in case something happens with Andy Pages. That's not Ryan Ward. That's not Teoscar Hernandez. That's not Kyle Tucker. If Tommy Edmonds hurt, you're out of luck if Andy Pages gets hurt. I don't think Ryan Ward is able to fill in that fourth outfield spot. The only possible spot that he could fill in is if there's some type of injury or maybe as some sort of bench left-handed bat. But even if it's a bench left-handed bat, there's really not a whole lot of room on this bench, especially if you're going to bring back eventually a Kike Hernandez, especially if you have a Miguel Rojas is going to be part of this bench. You're already going to have Dalton rushing. And then it becomes a question of the only spot that he could potentially take was Alex Call. There's a complication of factors with that. With Ryan Ward, I would still anticipate them to find some sort of trade partner at some point for him. Potentially, you could see that with somebody like Bobby Miller as well. Open up a roster spot for some designate for assignment guys that they can go ahead and bring in throughout the year or whatever is needed for additional roster spots from there. This just allows them to get some additional time to be able to make those moves. Michael Ciani, My guess is the organization is going to try to pass him through the designated for assignment to try to keep him in the organization for the very role that the Dodgers brought him onto the 40-man roster in the first place. Michael Ciani is a tremendous defensive center fielder. And if you have a tremendous defensive center fielder as part of your organization, we already saw what they did with Justin Dean in the postseason. My guess is Michael Ciani, if the Dodgers had their way, would play that type of role for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's got to be able to pass through over the next week. We did see this happen with the guy that they brought in, Ryan Fitzgerald. He actually passed through and is remaining as part of the Los Angeles Dodgers organization, not on the 40-man roster. That was good news for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Add some depth to this organization. My guess is they're going to try to do the exact same thing with Michael Ciani, and because they didn't find any trades that were suitable for Ryan Ward and Bobby Miller, this was a move that was made.
Okay, so no surprise here. I've gone on and on and on about why I thought Kyle Tucker would sign with the Dodgers. And you as my witness, Austin, my biggest defense for my thought on that, going all the way back maybe even 2 months ago, was that I thought he would gravitate towards winning world championships. Again, whenever you're already a multimillionaire, you already have, I mean, there's only, how many tractors do I need before I'm happy on my farm, right? I mean, I can only use one at a time, correct?
Yeah.
So at some point, extra money doesn't actually add value to your life. What adds value are the things that you do within your life that bring you satisfaction. Well, when you're an athlete and when you're a competitor, there is not anything that brings you more satisfaction than winning, right? So it is not a surprise whatsoever that Kyle Tucker made it very clear, and this may have pissed some other fans off, I don't care, that the main reason why he chose the Dodgers is because of their winning pedigree, and he felt like he could come to the Dodgers and win multiple world championships. So that reason was absolutely zero surprise for me that he gave for coming to the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right with that. Let's put ourselves in Kyle Tucker's shoes. You have a couple of different options that are available. There's a long-term security option with Toronto, which if he wanted a little bit more of that long-term, more guaranteed type money up front type of deal, he probably would have taken the Toronto Blue Jays offer. And Toronto would have been great a place for Kyle Tucker to be able to land. But if you compare the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Mets offer, and especially if they are really close or relatively comparable, I think Kyle Tucker's going to take the Los Angeles Dodgers offer, not just because he can win World Series championships, but you put yourself in Kyle Tucker's shoes, and this is something that I've talked about. He is currently on pace to be a potential, not that he's going to be, but a potential borderline Hall of Fame case. You know what really helps your case? Being able to win World Series championships.
Exactly.
Surrounding yourselves with some of the best hitters in the game to where
100%.
Pitchers are going to have to go after you and where you can put up some of your best numbers of your career during this stretch with the Los Angeles Dodgers, potentially opt out or get through the length of this contract and still make the amount of money that you would have in Toronto. And if you do that, you give yourself the best chance to put up the best numbers that you possibly can. You give yourself the best put yourself in the best position to win as many World Series championships as you can. Be able to define yourself in a dynasty, and if you're associated with with this dynasty, and you put up the acclimated numbers that he is projected to potentially put up. Again, Kyle Tucker throughout his career is at 25 to 29 wins above replacement, depending on whether you look at Fangraphs or baseball reference. And if you add on another 8 to 10 years on that, or even just another 6 years of really solid production, because Kyle Tucker has been a model of consistency over the past several years, you're going to look back at Kyle Tucker's case and say, man, this was a really good player. You elevate him to being on a dynasty type of team like the Los Angeles Dodgers that is going to define the 2020s of Major League Baseball. It puts them in a little bit in another stratosphere. I think you add both of those things together. New York Mets, Los Angeles Dodgers, similar situation. You have the winning pedigree of the Los Angeles Dodgers. I think that was too much for Kyle Tucker to be able to walk past. And I think he made the correct decision, at least luckily for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I think eventually for his career and potentially for even higher stakes going forward.
I loved the fact that Brandon Gomes just clearly said he was the only player that moved the needle in terms of winning championships. Now, why do I like that? Because I don't know how many times I've told you, or Austin, I love the moves the Dodgers make on the margins. Michael Ciani was one of those. Justin Dean was one of those last year. Will Klein, Justin Robleski, bringing him up from the minor leagues. Those are all nobody. You're going to have a hard time finding a show about the Dodgers anywhere.
Yep.
That with Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, you're going to have a hard time finding any Dodgers outlet that talks about the margins, that talks about the guys on the margins, anywheres as much as we do. So that we love the margin talk here, and the players that are on the margins. But having said that, I was so excited and so proud of Brandon Gomes that he didn't beat around the bush. He said point blank that there was nobody else that moved the needle for us to win a world championship. And so what I'm saying by that is, one thing I've complained about in the past about this organization is that they've just gone out, it seems like, just to go out to make a move just so they can have a veteran instead of a rookie or whatever it may be. And they go get a quad A guy on the margins when they could be using a guy from the farm system, that kind of deal.
Yep.
And I'm rounding this back to, I've always said you're the freaking Dodgers, going back to, the outfield situation. Hey, I don't want average everyday guy. I want, and this goes back to I remember saying this many different times. Who was the guy, the outfielder the Dodgers actually got? I want a Rosarina, and they got him and they traded him. Whatever that guy's. I don't want that guy. I want Randy Rosarina. And what I mean by that, now the Dodgers didn't get a Rosarina. But what I mean by that is, we're the freaking Dodgers. I don't want the third best guy available. I want the best guy available, because the only reason I want the Dodgers making moves is to move the needle towards winning a world championship, okay? And so by Brandon Gomes coming out and just point blank saying, basically, we weren't making a move unless we felt like it was going to make us a team that was closer to winning a world championship. That just tells me that this organization is in that urgent, now not desperate. We know they're not desperate. They waited out Kyle Tucker. There's a difference between being desperate and urgent, but they are in a very urgent mindset that we are going to pull every trigger we can to maximize this window. And it is, if you're a Dodgers fan, there's no way you can thank this front office. Now, they may go out and not even make the playoffs. It's baseball. You never know. I don't care. Even having said that, you still have to be very thankful for this front office that they are trying to maximize this window with the most amount of urgency they possibly can. That statement summed it all up for me.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely right, what you stated right there. And I think it is in part because throughout the years, throughout the past decade plus, the Dodgers have paid attention to the margins to the point where their entire roster, their entire team did not necessarily need a Kyle Tucker to be able to be added to the mix to make the team as good as possible. They paid attention to a lot of those margin type moves to the point where they got into this offseason. They looked across the board and said, what would make this team better? There is a lot of good, solid pieces that could be added to this mix that would be good complementary pieces. Adding a Brendan Donovan or a Lars Nootbaar would have been a really good complementary piece to this lineup that would have made the lineup deeper going into the season. Adding a Jarren Duran could have been somebody, or a Stephen Quad could have made this lineup even deeper. But if you look at the offensive comparison between those players and what a Kyle Tucker has been able to bring,
not close.
It's not even close. Kyle Tucker is dramatically better than those options. Kyle Tucker has been a top 10 hitter in the game of baseball over the past 5 years by WRC+. He fits exactly what the Los Angeles Dodgers need. And the Dodgers got him on the Dodgers terms. They got Edwin Diaz on the Dodgers terms. They got the best reliever. They got the best outfielder in the game of baseball.
Say it again.
I
got to hear that again.
They got the best reliever available and the best outfielder available to fill the only two potential weak spots on this Dodgers team that has won back-to-back World Series championships. They went out and got the best because they pay attention to the margin so well, because they have built a team that is so well-rounded to where, man, they can look around and they have the financial resources. They're going to do whatever they can to be able to add the best they possibly can because, man, they've got a great farm system. They've got so much talent that they could be able to do. They went out got the very best that they possibly could do. And they're showing that, man, they are so hungry to be able to go out and win a World Series championship. And it's not comparable across the game of baseball with the financial investment that this team makes and with as much attention to detail that this team makes across the board. It is remarkable, and it's been like this for years.
Mm-hmm. You know, they say entrepreneurs go bankrupt on average about 12 times. So one of the characteristics of an entrepreneur is that you're willing to take risks, you're willing to take chances, and you're willing to fail. And then as soon as you fail, you don't accept the word failure. You don't accept the word no. You pull yourself back up by your bootstraps and you try again. And you keep trying and trying and trying until you eventually figure it out. Okay. So why am I making this short story long? What am I tying this back into? It's amazing to me that not at any point during this process does it feel like the Dodgers were an entrepreneur and they went out and just took a chance. And thank God they took that chance because it paid off. There has not been a single move, Austin, that the Dodgers have made that I felt like, whew, they're putting their necks out on that one. If this doesn't work, we're screwed. It's amazing how they were able to build this piece by piece by piece by piece, the farm system and the major league roster. And not at any point in time did I feel like they were being reckless. Did I feel like they were going out on a limb, or that they were making a move that could backfire and harm this organization either in the short term or long term? It's amazing how and that's because of the restraint and the patience, urgency without desperation.
Yeah, it's the patience, it's the restraint, and it is the strategic targeting of individual players. It's not they just go out and get the players that are at the top of the market at each position every single year. No, they are strategic about who they go out and get. They went out and got Shohei Ohtani, massive deal. They made a large, massive financial investment to be able to go out and get Shohei Ohtani. A commitment of $700 million is no small investment. They also went and paid Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who, remember, did not pitch a single inning in Major League Baseball. They made that strategic investment. They made long-term investments in going out and trading for it and extending Mookie Betts, signing Freddie Freeman, all good, solid baseball players. Sure, there are moves that don't work out, and that's going to happen to every single team across the game of baseball. But what they've done is they built an infrastructure, and they've signed their long-term players to be the right long-term players to sign, to where, man, they can have so much room for error on this team, to where, man, if a deal here or two doesn't work out, it's not going to harm the Dodgers. Last year's offseason did not statistically work out well for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and yet they were still able to fairly easily, I won't say easily because there was a little bit of battle throughout the course of the season, they were still able to win the National League West and go on to win the World Series. There's a lot of margin of error for this team, and it's because of the players that they strategically target and because of the infrastructure that they have built over the past decade plus.
Okay, so we have talked about urgency, not desperation. What the Padres have done has been desperation. We've seen that. And I think that's going to hurt them down the line. Okay. What the Dodgers have done is urgency. That there's a huge urgency. Just means that you focus in more, your execution gets better. Desperation means that you're just throwing Hail Marys, and it's either going to land and you're going to win fast, or you're not going to land and you're going to lose everything.
Yep.
Okay, so I say that to say, does it make sense for the Dodgers have kept all their trade pieces? Okay, we talked about Skubal last week.
Yep.
He would be extremely expensive. They've kept all their trade pieces. Now you got to think a little bit 4D. Maybe they're going to need a shortstop down the line, that kind of deal. So they need to hold on to maybe some of their outfielders. And I'm talking 2 or 3 years down the line. And maybe you don't even think that far. Maybe you just think right now.
Yep.
But the Dodgers have put themselves in a position to where if they want to get – now I know Freddie Peralta is close to the signing with the Mets, so this may be a moot point. But the Dodgers have put themselves in a position to where I wouldn't say it would necessarily be responsible, but I don't think it would be reckless if they went out and put a package together to get Peralta.
Okay, so this becomes a little bit of a question for you as a Dodgers fan. How many arms do you trust potentially or think could get into a spot where you would be somewhat comfortable with them pitching in October? Meaning, I want us to be able to evaluate this not as a question of, okay, would Freddie Peralta be a nice addition to be able to add to the Los Angeles Dodgers? Freddie Peralta has been the ace of the Milwaukee Brewers for the last couple of years, aside from maybe Brandon Woodruff. He's been a really solid pitcher and would be a great addition to the Los Angeles Dodgers mix. The question is, how much better is he than some of the other options that the Los Angeles Dodgers have? And is it a need for the Los Angeles Dodgers to be able to add another pitcher into the mix that could potentially start?
It's not a need.
Yes, or to be potentially be able to start in the postseason. So this is the angle that I wanted a little bit to take it at. So I think there's 4 easy answers as far as, yes, I'd totally be comfortable if they would be starting in October. It's the 4 that started this past postseason. It's Yamamoto, it's Blake Snell, it's Shohei Ohtani, and Tyler Glasnow. Any complaints about any of those guys starting in October? I'm going to assume probably not. Then it comes down to a question of who are some of the other arms that could potentially be starting. And I think this brings up a really fascinating question because
Peralta traded to the Mets.
Peralta literally just traded.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have not seen this just happen. This must have just happened.
Yeah, I think it just did. I got talking baseball. Mets are, but breaking. It's probably not official, but I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, they're in deep talks to be able to acquire him. So, okay, so the reason why I wanted to bring this up, and let's spin this a little bit because I want to take this a little bit away from the Freddie Peralta, just because it seems like the Mets are going to be acquiring him. The reason why it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me for the Los Angeles Dodgers to be able to acquire him, you have 4 really solid options. If any of those 4 are starting in the postseason, or if all 4 really comfortable about, I think Emmett Sheehan. And I think you look at some of the numbers, and even if you look at some of the projected numbers between Freddie Peralta and Emmett Sheehan, they are really close.
Yeah.
And if they are really close between Emmett Sheehan and Freddie Peralta, and you have Emmett Sheehan on league minimums type of salary for many years to come, and Freddie Peralta for $8 million and only this upcoming year, man, there has to be a massive gap between the two to want an upgrade of a Freddie Peralta over an Emmett Sheehan. So Emmett Sheehan, I would feel at this point, I wouldn't feel the biggest confidence in the world, but I'd be somewhat confident because if you're looking at Emmett Sheehan, especially if he's the number 4 starter in the postseason, he's going to be up there in a lot of teams' playoff rotations. Just remember this past World Series, Trey Savage, who barely started during the course of the regular season, started a lot for the Blue Jays in the postseason. So I'd be fairly comfortable with Emmett Sheehan potentially starting in the postseason. And then you got a couple of wild cards in a River Ryan or a Gavin Stone or a Roki Sasaki. Your hope would be that some of those guys would be able to develop or come back healthy to the point where, man, if absolutely necessary, you could potentially turn to those options. Or, and I think this is the thing that the Dodgers are in position to be able to do, you just wait to see what happens. Obviously, the health of your starting pitchers is not a guarantee. And it could be getting to the point where, man, there might have to be a move at the deadline. The Dodgers are perfectly positioned to, if needed, make a move at the deadline. But right now, it's easy to say, yeah, you don't have enough starting pitching, so get whatever starting pitching that you can. But the Dodgers are in a position where they can wait. And if needed, if they needed to go out and get somebody, they have all the resources to be able to do so, and more resources than just about any other team because they went out and made their additions through free agency instead of through trade this offseason. So I was kind of going into this conversation and no on a Freddie Peralta only because of the cost to be able to acquire him. And I don't see it as that much of a significant upgrade. And I would definitely not exchange an Emmett Sheehan for Freddie Peralta.
Hey, Austin, can you put the link to the show? As far as if anyone wanted to join, the link to the to the actual Google Meets meeting, can you put that? I've actually, I don't have the ability to get the URL. I actually messed that up. So if you could put that in there, if anybody wants to join and talk 3-man here or 4-man or 4-woman, whatever it may be, hop on in and talk, and let's talk some great Dodgers baseball. Okay, so while you're doing that, I have a question for you, Austin.
Yep.
So we've already seen Michael Ciani has been DFA'd. They can still trade him, or they can just send him back on a minor league contract like they've done several other people. So at this point, okay, if you need, who do you trade? Of course, I think they're probably going to keep both at this point, but who do you trade or who do you give the playing time to, Ryan Ward or Alex Call?
Okay, so if it was me, and let me know if you can get that. I don't know if it's going to pop up just because I don't know if I'm actually, I don't even know if I'm a moderator in here. So that might be something where I have to be made a moderator real quick to be able to post that in the chat. If it is me, I'm holding on to Alex Call, and then I'm trading Ryan Ward. And I think the explanation for that is pretty simple. It has to come down to defense. While I don't think Alex Call is the most, I don't know.
So exactly. Who's the fourth outfielder right now?
Right now, the fourth outfielder is Alex Call.
And so the question is, does the fourth outfielder need to be an offensive guy or a defensive guy?
I think that is correct. And yes. The reason why I'm leaning a little bit more towards Alex Call, one, I don't think he's a bad offensive player at all. I think you look at him throughout his career, he's been right around a league average offensive hitter, 100 WRC plus, which, I mean, if we're talking about adding a 100 WRC plus type hitter into the mix, that's not a bad hitter to be able to add to the mix if there is some type of injury for some sort of short-term type of solution. You don't necessarily know what you're going to get at the major league level for Ryan Ward as of yet. There perhaps could be a little bit more upside than what there is with Alex Call, but there is a little bit more certainty in what you're going to get with Alex Call. And I think it is something where you feel a little bit more comfortable with Alex Call fitting into that type of role going forward into the 2026 season, as opposed to Ryan Ward, who for the past however long or throughout his baseball life has been more of an everyday type of player. If he's with Los Angeles, he's the fourth outfielder. He's not an everyday type of hitter. He's a once a week, maybe a twice a week type of hitter. He's not going to see a lot of playing time at all for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I feel comfortable with Alex Call fitting into that type of role because he fit into that type of role last year. I feel confident enough in Alex Call's offense ability to be able to go in and be a contributor. And then the factor I think is the most important to me at this point is Alex Call can at least play a center field. You look at this roster without Tommy Edman, and assuming that Ha-Seong Kim is in Oklahoma City, or if you don't necessarily know how comfortable you feel with Ha-Seong Kim in center field, the only option defensively in center field is Andy Pages. And you can't run Teoscar Hernandez in center field. You can't run a Kyle Tucker in center field, and you can't run a Ryan Ward in center field, which means if Tommy Edman's on the injured list, if Ha-Seong Kim's in Oklahoma City, and Andy Pages gets hurt in a game, your three outfielders are Teoscar Hernandez, Ryan Ward, and Kyle Tucker. Good luck trying to figure out somebody who could play center field in that type of role. And especially if Michael Ciani is going elsewhere, there's just not a whole lot of depth, especially at the center field position, to the point where I think Alex Call just fits in that role a little bit better. And then you think about the aspect of Ryan Ward, just giving him an actual opportunity as opposed to you're going to sit on the bench and maybe once a week we'll go ahead and turn to you when somebody needs a day off. I think it is a better situation for Ryan Ward long-term to be able to go to another organization, to the point where I prefer Alex Call on this roster, even if there are aspects of Ryan Ward's game that I would prefer to have on this roster. For example, a left-handed bat potentially off the bench. I would like that better than an Alex Call. I think if you look at the overall big picture, Alex Call fits better on this roster right now than Ryan Ward, which means I think it is right to go ahead and trade Ryan Ward in this situation.
I totally agree. There's not anything that you said right there. That was absolutely well done, Austin. If I may go back and actually listen to that later, because I think you just absolutely nailed that spot on with my boy Wardo. Here's another deal, so I'm going to cross it off my list. Here's my notes right here on paper, yeah. Austin. I got my notes. If you could send that, I think I emailed that link to you. If you could email that back to me, I could put that link back in the chat here in a minute, because I actually lost it on my toolbar here. Okay, so here's an aspect of the Kyle Tucker trade that I don't think people are talking near enough about. Now, it's being discussed. Don't get me wrong. I'm not reinventing the wheel here, but I think a real big part of this, Austin. And if you can, I would like for you to break this down from a analytical perspective. I think it's a big deal that Teo's moving to left field instead of right field. I think that's one thing that Dodgers fans really wanted, was Teo Hernandez, as much as we love him, not in right field. I think a lot of Dodgers fans preferred Teo Hernandez in left field instead of right field. And so by getting Kyle Tucker, another thing the Dodgers did very well here, and congratulations to Teo Hernandez. You proved again that you are just a wonderful team player. Teo Hernandez had zero problems whatsoever moving to left field, right? So I think a big factor of this is that Teo Hernandez gets to move to left field. So it's not going to be like a tremendous defensive outfield. I'm not trying to blow smoke here, but I think it is going to be a better outfield now that Teo Hernandez is moving to left and you have Kyle Tucker in right field. So I think that was just kind of a lucky byproduct of getting Kyle Tucker, is that you also, just by luck, made your outfield defense better. Am I right there?
Okay, so I think so. There's a couple of different aspects that we have. First off, Freddie Peralta was officially traded to the New York Mets. That was made official, or at least I just saw that with the tweet by Jeff Passan. So if you're tuning in because of the title or the video description that we have, I'm not disappointed. And Freddie Peralta going to the New York Mets, I think it was a perfect move for the Mets to be able to make. It adds a much needed front of the line rotation piece to their mix, and good for the New York Mets. They were able to upgrade for their team.
They're ruining baseball, Austin.
They could be ruining. They absolutely are ruining baseball with what they have. So good for the New York Mets. That should make them a little bit more competitive than what they have. Second thing, I sent you an email with the link into this chat in there. So hopefully you should be able to add that in there. When it comes to Teoscar Hernandez in left field, look, I don't think that there is going to be statistically a drastic difference between Teoscar Hernandez in left field and right field. Why do I say that? Well, when the Teoscar Hernandez came to the Los Angeles Dodgers in 2024, he had primarily been more of a right fielder. You look at 2021 through 21, 22, 23, his number of games in right field was 110, 117, and 135 when he was with Toronto and Seattle. He was primarily a right fielder 2021 through 2023. And what he had been in right field was a slightly below league average to possibly a slightly above league average type of defender in right field during those particular years. Comes to the Los Angeles Dodgers and for the most part played a majority of left field. It was kind of 2/3, 1/3 left field versus right field as far as number of innings at that position. And when Teoscar Hernandez was in left field, let's not forget, he was not a good defender in left field in 2024. -8 defensive runs saved, -9 outs above average, -11 fielding run value. If you actually look, and this was in part the reason why Teoscar Hernandez was in right field this past season, he actually put up 5 defensive runs saved in right field in 2024 and was at the very least around league average in 2024. Fast forward into the 2025 season, Teoscar Hernandez is below league average as a defender, at the very least by outs above average and fielding run value, which I think is a little bit more what you would look to more for outfield defense. -9 for both of those categories in 2025. And right field is one of those positions where you look overall, if baseballs get by you, those are turning into triples. And with Teoscar Hernandez over in right field, that's not something that they wanted to do. I think you look at him as a defender overall, he's not a really good defender. And so the question is, do you want to put him in left field where there potentially could be a little bit more batted balls, or do you want to put him in right field where the more batted balls go over there, the more potential there is for them to turn into not just doubles, but extra base hits, turn them into triples as well. And I think the Dodgers made a calculated choice to where bringing in Kyle Tucker, they get him won a Gold Glove a couple of years ago. There's hope that he can rebound defensively. I see Kyle Tucker as being a slightly below league average type of defender. You put Teoscar Hernandez where he's going to be a below league average defender in left field. I think it kind of just equates out to where, man, Michael Conforto was below league average defender. You get a slightly around league average to maybe slightly below league average in right field and a below league average defender in left field. And I think just because of the outfield defense was so bad last year, I think it kind of just equals out to where it's maybe slightly better than what it was the year before. You have less concern about doubles turning into triples with Teoscar Hernandez in left field. But overall, because you have Teoscar Hernandez still in the outfield, it's not going to be the greatest outfield defense in the world. You just got to hope that the offensive contributions that they are able to provide are able to outweigh the defensive concerns that they're going to bring.
my little Vivian, she's having a fit over something. Something is it's nighttime here, and something's just driving her nuts. I'll mute that if she keeps doing that. I apologize for that. But when you have 2 pit bulls, sometimes that happens. So I bring up that defense in the outfield to ask this question. Kyle Tucker easily was the best offensive player out there, no doubt about it. The Dodgers needed to improve their offense. Their offense was anywhere from inconsistent to not good for a large period of the back half of last year. So did they do enough for their offense, even getting Kyle Tucker to pretty much, I mean, nobody can argue they are the best team in baseball offensively.
Yeah, okay. So I believe they got to the point where they are going to be projected to be the best offense in the game of baseball. You look at the numbers last year, New York Yankees were the number one offense in the game of baseball by WRC plus with a 119 that was very heavily influenced by Aaron Judge and his ridiculous season that he continually has. Hall of Fame type of player that you have in Aaron Judge. With the Dodgers offense, it just becomes that much more deep when you have Kyle Tucker. And a lot of things are dependent on health-wise, how good is this team's going to actually be. It's also going to be dependent on some rebounds that this team is going to potentially have. How is Mookie Betts going to be able to rebound? Is Teoscar Hernandez going to be more than just a league average type of hitter? I think if both of those guys can even get to a 115 to 120 WRC plus type of level, you add on a Kyle Tucker into this lineup that goes from a 78-ish WRC plus that Michael Conforto had to a 130 WRC plus.
But everybody's older.
He's starting. Kyle Tucker is starting to get a little bit older, but
Freddie and Mookie are older.
Freddie and Mookie are starting to get older, but even if you account for some of that regression, you're still talking about a massive, really good lineup. I have the spreadsheet that I've been working on, obviously, with what I have, and based on some of the projections that you potentially have, which you can take some of these projections with a grain of salt. If you have a lineup, and this includes versus right-handed pitching, this doesn't include Tommy Edman. This includes Alex Freeland at second base instead of a Tommy Edman. You're talking about a lineup versus right-handed pitching that has a projected WRC plus versus right-handed pitching by Steamer projections of 125 on average and a 119 versus left-handed pitching on average. And that includes Andy Ibanez and Miguel Rojas hitting in the place versus left-handed pitching. You're talking about a team that with the Yankees had a 119 WRC plus. The Dodgers have the capability to go above and beyond that. And I don't think the Yankees did quite enough. And their roster is aging as well to the point where I think the Dodgers are going to have the best offense in the game of baseball. And even with some of the defensive concerns that you probably are still going to have in the outfield, I think the offense is going to hit enough to be able to overcome any sort of defensive concerns that this team has. They either need to go out trying to make the roster a little bit more well-rounded, which they could have done, adding somebody pretty solid defense, perhaps could have filled in the mold in center field to be able to make the outfield defense that good, or you just go out and find the best offensive player that you possibly can, and that's Kyle Tucker, and that's what they did.
Yeah, and we have a question here from Carol. We just went into the conversation about Freddie Peralta a minute ago to some kind of the Cliff Notes version of the Freddie Peralta talk-up, Freddie Peralta to the Mets, is that whenever you actually go behind the curtains of Freddie Peralta and Emmett Sheehan, they're actually way more similar than you think. Emmett Sheehan's on the league minimum, and it doesn't require a whole slew of prospects to get Emmett Sheehan. So when you talk about that desperate versus urgent, to me, going and getting Kyle Tucker was urgent because you needed to improve your outfield, and you needed to improve it substantially to remove a bunch of now you could have still won the World Series without him, but you're removing a bunch of variability in your lineup, a bunch of variability between winning and losing. I mean, we saw last year, Austin, the Dodgers were one cleat away from losing the World Series, correct? That's how close they were. So I think you could make the case you needed Kyle Tucker not to win the World Series, but you needed him to remove a lot of variability between the variables that can cause you to lose. So you've removed a lot of those. I personally think Edwin Diaz was a need. I don't think it's a good setup having starting pitchers finish your World Series, although the Dodgers have done that 3 times in a row. So stack that into the urgent category. Whenever you look at Freddie Peralta versus Emmett Sheehan and what it would take to get Freddie Peralta versus how much Emmett Sheehan cost, and you still have Roki Sasaki, too, as your 6th starter. You still have River Ryan. You still have Gavin Stone, Kyle Hurt, Bobby Miller, Landon Knack. You still have all these guys. You've got an Adam Sierwanowski, a Jackson Ferris. You got all these guys waiting in the wings. I think when it came down to it, I think you could have put Freddie Peralta, like for the Mets, in the desperate category, whereas everything the Dodgers have done to this point has been in the urgent category. That's a different way of saying wants versus needs.
Yep, and I think the way that you said that the letter, the wants versus need, is absolutely correct. The New York Mets needed a pitcher like a Freddie Peralta, whereas the Los Angeles Dodgers did not need Freddie Peralta to be able to add to the mix. He just would have been another complementary piece to be able to add to the mix. Now, this is not to say that Freddie Peralta and Emmett Sheehan are going to be the exact same type of players. If I had to guess, probably Freddie Peralta is going to be the better pitcher in 2026 over in Emmett Sheehan. But if you look at the duration of what their current contract is, I think they're close enough in value, or at least close enough in projected production between Freddie Peralta and Emmett Sheehan. You go look at Fangraphs on the projections for a Freddie Peralta and Emmett Sheehan. They are very close to each other in terms of ERA, expected ERA, all of that sort, to the point where I'm not going to go ahead and move on from somebody that, especially for somebody that you have for years of control, for somebody like a Freddie Peralta, and especially even giving up some of the depth that they have, I think you could get enough production in Emmett Sheehan to where you'd be fairly comfortable with him starting in a playoff game. Now, Freddie Peralta gets to move on to the New York Mets, where he's going to be their number one starter. If the postseason started tomorrow and it was the Mets versus the Dodgers, Freddie Peralta is going to be their number one starter. With the Los Angeles Dodgers, he would have been the fifth option to the Los Angeles Dodgers, which shows you exactly the place where the Dodgers were at. They did not need him. Now they get to keep on some of the depth that they have. And if you talked about a six-man rotation, you're probably going to have Emmett Sheehan and probably a Roki Sasaki that is going to be in the mix. Throw in a River Ryan, Gavin Stone. You have Justin Robleski that's in the mix, Landon Knack, all these different arms that are going to be fighting for potential playing time and added depth that you have within your organization to be able to provide some potential extended rest for some of the guys that you are going to be relying upon in October. They're really well set in the starting pitching side, which is why I think it was Andy Friedman that made some sort of joke today that, do we need any starting pitcher? No, not really. And he kind of pushed it back onto some of the reporters. You think we need some? Or that's not an exact quote, but that was kind of a insinuation of what he had with that. So the Dodgers are not in a place where they need starting pitching. I think they're in a really good spot with what they have built in this roster right now, and they've addressed all the areas that they were looking to address this offseason.
Okay, so who would you say this generation of Dodgers is built on?
Shohei Ohtani.
For one, yes, but not just Shohei Ohtani. Keep going.
Okay, this generation. What are you defining as this generation?
This run of World Series champions. Like the 2020 was the Cody Bellingers and the 20 that group, the Gavin Luxes and Will Smith. There's there's a little bit of crossover there. Even like the Clayton Kershaws, the Walker Buehlers, the Julio Uriases. It's squarely. I mean, I think Will Smith might be the only crossover, right?
Yeah.
So this is a whole different. Say it again.
Yeah, so you're talking about Ohtani, you're talking about Betts, you're talking about Freeman from the pitching side. Maybe Yamamoto is what is built off of.
Okay, it's all the guys. So if you want to know who this generation of Dodgers are defined by, there's a very easy way to do it. You know how to do it, Austin?
How's that?
Look at the length of contracts. The Dodgers only give long contracts to superstars. They are not going to give a 7-year contract to a guy that marginally makes them better. Nobody is, but especially the Dodgers. Hell, they wouldn't even do it for Kyle Tucker. They got him in 4 years, right? So my question here is, this is kind of a tinfoil question, but let's have a little bit of fun.
Okay.
Is Kyle Tucker a pickup for the Dodgers that's just maximizing the window of Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani? Or is Kyle Tucker being viewed as the next Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Shohei Ohtani as the next building block superstar that's a bridge to the next gap or the next generation of Dodgers World Series champions? Did you understand what I asked there?
Yeah, so this is a fascinating question because of the length of what Kyle Tucker's deal, because it could be as short as 2 years.
It could go both ways, yeah.
It could be as short as 2 years. But if Kyle Tucker is able to drastically succeed, he potentially is looking for some sort of long-term deal. I'm going to guess that the Dodgers probably want to sign him to that long-term deal because, man, if they weren't comfortable giving starting at age 29, what tells you that they're going to go out and sign somebody starting at their age 31, although they signed Freddie Freeman for his age 32 through 37 type of season. So perhaps they could be interested in some type of deal like that. With Kyle Tucker, I think he is just an addition to this roster to be able to maximize the window of Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman.
I can't believe you went there. That's cool, Austin.
Okay,
yeah.
But I think it might be a potential necessary move because of the start of decline potentially that you could see.
So they don't need their next superstar yet?
What was that?
They don't need their next superstar yet?
I don't think they necessarily need a next superstar, but I see them viewing it as we could potentially over the next couple of years see some sort of decline in some of the value or some of the production in a Mookie Betts, who last year, although I don't think it was under the complete perfect circumstances because of some of the stuff that he dealt with his sickness last year, with first time full season at the shortstop position. There's a lot of different reasons, but Mookie Betts was around the league average type of offensive contributor when the Dodgers were expecting him to be more than that, expecting him to be a contributor that's going to be towards the top of the league in offensive production. With Freddie Freeman, we haven't seen that quite to the extreme, but we also seen Freddie Freeman deal with some injuries the past couple of seasons. We're starting to see this core start to get older a little bit. And so adding somebody like a Kyle Tucker is right during the prime of his career before they're able to go out and get the next carrying building block to this team to be able to go out, especially perhaps once Freddie Freeman is going to leave, which Freddie Freeman's contract ends right at the first potential start and when Kyle Tucker could potentially leave. I think that's when you could see the next wave of building blocks being able to form for this Los Angeles Dodgers team, whether that comes from internally or whether that comes externally, the building blocks. I think Kyle Tucker is an extension of this window to be able to help fortify and maximize the window that the Dodgers have right now.
Okay, we have a Chuck Huddleston getting ready to bring him in. All right, let me go ahead and bring him in right. I don't know. See, I'm trying to do it here, Chuck. I'm sorry. Admit right there. Okay, there we go. I think that did it right there. Okay, and so we have it going on. I just lost Austin there. I'm not sure why. Let me flip him over. Go ahead, Chuck. You're on.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm excited about the team. Can't wait to get to Camelback and look at it for myself.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What's on your mind tonight, Chuck?
I was thinking, unless we're going to trade for Scooble, we have enough people now. We could maybe make a super trade for Brendan Donovan and make him the super utility guy.
Austin.
Okay, so this is something that I've at least mentally explored a little bit, because you have that potential opening at the second base position, which right now is being occupied, at least with the absence potentially of a Tommy Edman, by an Alex Freeland or a Hae-Sung Kim. That would probably be the most likely options that you could turn to. So if the Dodgers wanted to go a little bit younger in that aspect, they could definitely turn to that. But if they wanted to go out all extreme and make this offense as good as it possibly can be, especially against right-handed pitching, Brendan Donovan would be the guy that would fit into that mix. Some of the potential concerns and this is just very nitpicky, Brendan Donovan's not quite as good against left-handed pitching as he is against right-handed pitching. But then that's when you could do a Tommy Edman / Brendan Donovan platoon at the second base position and have them go at it. I don't think Brendan Donovan is necessarily a need. He would be the ultimate luxury to be able to add to this mix. But if you're hey, we want to make this lineup as good as it possibly can, we've already gone this far and we haven't utilized any of the trade pieces. If nobody's going to meet the asking price for Brendan Donovan, and perhaps that starts to go down a little bit, or perhaps teams like the Seattle Mariners look for alternative options and the price starts to go down a little bit, I think the Dodgers could be in a position where they could be potentially opportunistic. It'd be a little bit of a weird fit onto this roster. It'd definitely be second baseman versus right-handed pitching. Versus lefties, it'd be a little bit more of a question mark. Then you have the question of, okay, how does Tommy Edman fit onto this mix? I think if you bring it into Brendan Donovan, that would it would be very, very difficult to be able to find some sort of room for like a Kike Hernandez to be able to add to the mix, unless Kike Hernandez is your fourth outfielder as opposed to an Alex Call. So there's a couple of down roster ramifications, but I only think a move like this is made if there is an opportunity to be advantageous to be fall into the Dodgers lap. But he would be a great addition to be able to add to this mix and make this lineup, especially against righties, so deep. Brendan Donovan in the 8 hole? Or in the 9 hole? Are you kidding me? I would guess probably 8 hole with Andy Pages and the 9 hole just to be able to lefty righty. Man, that'd be so good.
Yeah, that's my thinking. We're in the business of going to extreme measures now to win a world championship.
Absolutely.
So why stop short? And the three of us know probably more than most do about the upcoming 40-man roster crunch in a year or two, right? All the players that are coming through the pipeline. We need to actually make some roster spots. It's going to be
the ones
better.
that are Rule 5 eligible is what you're talking about.
Exactly.
They're going to have to be added. By rule, they're going to have to be added to the 40-man. Yes.
Exactly. And so we know there's a crunch coming. Something's going to have to be done. And I'd rather do something a little earlier before because we're going to lose. We're going to have people like Ward that we're going to lose for not much value. I know they'll make some trades now because they're running out of draft picks. So they're going to make some trades for some lower level minor leaguers that have super potential. I know that's going to happen, and maybe even for some international money, but that's going to happen. And I also want to tell you, I don't know if you know, Casey, I'm going to go visit up at the Great Lakes in June.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And then I'm going to come
Why
try
not
to
April, Chuck?
Too cold. Come
on.
Listen, the town.
That's funny.
The town I live
That's funny.
in. Hey, the town I live in. Almost once a year, they say on the Today Show that I live in the town with the most 70-degree days in any place in the whole world.
Yeah.
And
I can guarantee you, there's not going to be 70 degrees in Great Lakes once it gets to
It ain't going to be
April.
70 degrees in Oklahoma this weekend.
No, and the other thing is I'm thinking about coming and seeing you in early July when Tulsa and Oklahoma City are back-to-back weeks.
Awesome.
Going to Tulsa for a couple games and then drive over to Oklahoma City and do
Let me suggest
there.
one more thing. I think you need to go to Wichita and see their new Riverfront Stadium. It's like 2 hours from Oklahoma City, and you would love it. You would absolutely love that Riverfront Stadium.
I could do that. We got family in Ponca City, so.
We meet them right there. Go there, right there on 62 and on I-35. They have a brand new big old casino. Then they have the Kansas Star Casino. Y'all would have a heck of a good time.
Well, so here's my plan is to go to Ontario. I want to see all 4 affiliates.
Cool.
And maybe if Mark's down there, I'd like to see him. Do you want me to bring you guys Tower Buzzer hats? If I go?
Absolutely. 100%.
Oh, I actually already have it. I have the yellow Tower Buzzers hat that I have. It's not over me right there. It's right behind. It's back behind me. I actually got that for Christmas. But when you come to Great Lakes, we'll have tickets prepared for you. Make sure that you get a little bit of tour around every place that they have. Great Lakes is a great place to be able to watch the game, as I'm sure Tulsa and Oklahoma City is, and we'll be more than happy to be able to welcome you or anybody, Dodgers Dogs, if anybody's in the chat and like, hey, I want to go visit Great Lakes or I want to visit Oklahoma to see some of the affiliates, just let us know and we'll be happy to be able to show you around where things are at.
And my wife wants to go now because she heard when you told her about the Christmas town. So
Frankie moved over to Michigan.
She's all aboard about, and I did watch some of the mid a couple times. I saw John on the mid.
Yep.
Those guys are pretty cool. Hey, those two young guys are pretty good. I like that show.
Yeah, no, they do a tremendous job being able to cover the Michigan. Yeah, no, Chuck, I think going back to the original call, I think the Brendan Donovan would be something where you could potentially make that work. Be a little bit tricky with St. Louis because they're probably going to be wanting some close to or right around ready major league pitching. They probably would ask for a River Ryan plus or potentially they would probably ask initially for an Emmett Sheehan, then probably turn to a River Ryan plus some other options. I don't necessarily know how well Alex Freeland would be able to fit into the mix because they have Mason Wynn and JJ Weatherhole that are going to be filling out the middle infield for the St. Louis Cardinals. So potentially you could fit Alex Freeland at third base, but I don't know what their third base situation is. So there'd be a little bit of back and forth with some of the pieces that they have right there, but they're potentially.
Do we have an open spot on the 26 right now? Or if they were to start tomorrow? Of course, there's no 26 until they break for spring training. But would there be a spot, or would you have to trade somebody for that? You think?
So if they were to bring in Brendan Donovan, that would carry the spot of either an Alex Freeland or a Ha-Seong Kim at this point, or would take over the role that an Andy Ibanez has. However, Andy Ibanez fits a specific role. He's infield versus left-handed pitching. That's not what Brendan Donovan is. He's infield or utility versus right-handed pitching, which that infield/utility versus right-handed pitching is exactly the role that Alex Freeland or Ha-Seong Kim is filling.
Yeah, I like Kim for AAA this year for at least part of the season because I think there's some things that Kim really need. I don't want him to fail, and I really want him to really be ready because I think the next chance or two he gets, you know how it goes. You get up there and you blow a chance or two, then they want to move on from you. And I want to make sure he's good and ready for, I mean, defensively, he's ready. I mean, he can do anything defensively. But with the bat, I want him to be ready because there's so many good bats in the lineup. The Dodgers, I'm just worried that they'll move on from him because he's just got so much potential. I don't want to lose that. And I just think they fall, those stars fall fast on these guys. They don't have a lot of patience with them.
No,
they don't have time to,
Yeah, they don't have time. And this is something that the struggle that we see with some of these prospects coming up through the system. They get a cup of coffee at the major league level, and if they don't hit it right away, people lose patience with them immediately when it takes time for them to be able to establish themselves at the big league level. It takes time for them to grow and fail. And I think that's in part why I kind of like a spot being open for a Alex Freeland or a Ha-Seong Kim at the major league roster. You can have a lot of debates of who should fill in that spot because I think it is still imperative on the Dodgers to be able to find room to be able to add some youth or at least see what they've got with some of these guys on their roster to the point where with an Alex Freeland, man, if Max Muncy is going to move off within the next year or two, you want to see if he can fill in the role or if he can fill in for if Mookie Betts needs to move around at the shortstop position. Alex Freeland is rock solid defensively at the shortstop position, but is he going to fit offensively at the plate? And with Ha-Seong Kim, the Dodgers brought him in because of the talent that he has. And it's a question of, does he need the major league at-bats to be adequated enough to be able to get to major league pitching? Or are there parts of his game that need more refinement, which might be easier to refine in a lower pressure situation like Oklahoma City, where he's getting consistent every single day at bats, as opposed to perhaps near every day at bats that he would in LA or 3 times a week type of bats that he would with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So there's a lot of question marks that they could have. Brendan Donovan, I'm not completely closing the door on it because he's a really good player and would fit this Dodgers lineup so well and just make this lineup as deep as it possibly could be. That would be the mood for people to have. I think there's a couple of different things, and I don't think the Dodgers are going to get desperate because their lineup already is stacked.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers, without giving up River or Sheehan, I wouldn't give up either one. I think the Dodgers have enough numbers and prospects to make a Donovan trade without giving that. Because, when that happened, the Dodgers have done that time and time again. You see them add a lower level player that they really like, that the Dodgers aren't assigning. And instead of, doing a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1, they're doing a 4 or 5-for-1. But they're lower level prospects that the Dodgers don't see the same potential to, they'll be good players, but not great players maybe. And I think that's, potentially, I would add more players to the deal and to get him. And I do not want to trade River Ryan unless we're getting Skubek.
Yeah.
At all.
Like Rain Don Cone would be a perfect example of who you're talking about. Dodgers traded him. He was a big prospect at one time. Haven't really heard of him. Gerald Perez, somebody like that. That's exactly who you're talking about, Chuck.
Yeah, that's what I like. I think that's doable if they want to do it and make a super bench. I mean, you have Edman and Donovan switch, then you don't have those worries about what happens if Pajas can't play center. What happens if anybody can't play any place? Those guys can play everywhere. And I'm worried about Alex because I like Alex so much, and I know he doesn't need to go back to AAA for anything, as far as I'm concerned. He's ready. He's major league ready.
Yeah, if there was some type of Brendan Donovan move, my guess, especially because Alex Freeland got one of his option years removed, he would probably be part of the mix only because there would be absolutely zero room for Alex Freeland to be able to grow. And I don't know if the Dodgers want to move off of that depth that they have with Alex Freeland, and especially with his potential to be able to play on the left side of the infield at shortstop and at third base, keeping that options open. That would be a difficult decision for the Dodgers to be able to move off of. But certainly within the realm of possibilities for the Dodgers to be able to have, especially Brendan Donovan hasn't been traded yet. Not expecting it, but keep the door open and see what happens.
Yep.
Is that it, Chuck?
That's all I had, but I want to join. I was waiting to see if anybody else. I've been on so often. I don't want to jump in if somebody else wanted to come in.
Yeah. Well, they can always log back in, and we can have 4 or 5.
Yeah. Make a pitch for people to be able to tune in and
they should.
The show.
I would love to hear something. I'm watching them. I'm doing the comments. There's a bunch of great comments on the sidebar there that they should jump in and join in. 100%.
Chuck, appreciate it, brother. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, thank you so much. You guys have a great one.
Okay, man. See you.
Bye.
All right. So we have a question here, Austin. Who should we look? That Chuck is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, Chuck
who
is
should we
awesome.
look? We have people who live next to the Ontario Stadium. So who are the people that we should be looking most forward to on the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes? Yeah, on the Tower Buzzers. I'm going to start with this young man who got hurt last year, and this is Joendry Vargas. This is a very, very, very talented young shortstop prospect. Actually, let me get to the videos here. Let's see, where I got to find it first. Hold on one second. I am failing you here, Austin. Videos right there. Okay, right there. Okay, videos. So this is Joendry Vargas, very good, very talented young player, a young man that got hurt last year, and also a young man that has a lot of power, a young man that has a lot of range defensively, a strong young man. He has very good leadership skills. The question is going to be, can he learn how to make contact with the baseball consistently enough to keep moving up? We know one of the telltale signs of a prospect that a lot of times one hole that will get caught up with them as they move forward is that if you swing and miss too much, eventually the pitching is going to get good enough to where that tells you have a hole in your swing. And that also tells you as the pitching gets better, they're going to be able to hit that hole more often. So I think the question for Joendry Vargas is going to be, can he have enough bat-to-ball skills to reach the potential, which is pretty substantial? So take us through the numbers, Austin.
Yeah, that is the biggest thing, is can he cut down his strikeouts as he gets more acclimated to professional baseball, especially affiliated baseball. Spent a lot of time at the complex level. Last year, 29 games in Rancho Cucamonga, the affiliate at the time for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Didn't necessarily go great for Joendry Vargas, and it was in part because he was striking out near 30% of the time. But this only comes from 137 plate appearances. Remember, this was one of the guys that was one of the top international free agents that the Dodgers were able to bring into the mix. A ton of talent, plays shortstop position quite a bit, third base as well. You're going to see him in those type of roles. And there's going to be, especially for the Tower Buzzers, it was funny because earlier today, I was looking and starting to, at least in my mind, map out where each one of these players could potentially be. There's potential to be some really good infielders as part of the mix. Joendry Vargas, as far as the raw tools and talent, fits into that mix. But you're also talking about some of the other infielders that could be in Ontario. And you're talking about guys like Chase Harlan, who was interviewed on Dodgers Daily. Be sure to check out that interview. And a guy potentially like Kellen Lindsay, a couple of
let's talk about Harlan for a second so I can throw video up there. Let's spend a couple minutes on each player so I can put video up. This is Chase Harlan. So big old third baseman, tons and tons of power potential, soft hands at third base, quick feet, stays inside the baseball, so he has a little bit of a two-strike approach. He balances those two. Young man that was going to go to college, turned that down. This is a guy that thinks big league. He is, I mean, you talk about lots and lots of potential. That's Chase Harlan.
Yeah, lots of potential for him. 2024 third-round draft pick. I believe it was their second pick in that draft because I think they lost a draft pick that year. Spent a lot of time mixed between the complex level and got his first taste of affiliate ball last year. 269 batting average combined between the numbers, 357, 442. That's a 113 WRC plus for Chase Harlan. Got some decent power, hit 9 home runs in the 68 games that he played. Walks a decent amount, strikeout percentage about 22.3%. Went up a little bit once he got to affiliate ball. Just a lot of potential, a lot of good raw tools for him. Still young, you would anticipate him because he's only played 26 games at the single A level, and because he's going to be entering into just his age 19 season this upcoming year. He's 19 years old at this point. Really young, talented third baseman coming up through the mix. That's going to be young for his level that he's entering. If he makes some really solid strides, you could be talking about at some point, even if it's in the 2027 season, a 20-year-old kid playing third base for the Great Lakes Loons. If you're talking about 20-year-olds, you're talking about the ages of guys like a Josue DePaula and Zaire Hope were this past season. If Chase Harlan can get if he can have his hit tool go out and perform well, he's going to rise up a lot of these rankings, and the baseball industry is going to be talking about Chase Harlan coming up. A lot of potential in him.
Imagine having a Kellen Lindsey, Chase Harlan left side of your infield, and Joe Andrew Vargas thrown in somewhere. Maybe Kellen Lindsey at second base, Joe Andrew Vargas at short, and Chase Harlan at third base. That would be pretty impressive. So the question here are, who are some of the players that if you go to the new stadium there in Ontario, you watch the Tower Buzzers, who are some of the players that you should be looking out for the Tower Buzzers? Now, you never can tell. They may start Joe Andrew Vargas and Chase Harlan, Kellen Lindsey at Great Lakes. I don't think they will. So we're guessing here.
Yep.
Right? We're guessing here definitely. But this is Kellen Lindsey, a young man the Dodgers took with their first pick in the 2024 draft. A guy with 80 grade speed, so kind of like Kendall George, kind of like Mike Sirota, kind of like Zaire Hope, Eduardo Quintero, Jaron Elkins. The Dodgers have drafted and got in their system guys with great speed, and Kellen Lindsey, alongside probably a Kendall George, are at the top of that list. 80 grade speed for Kellen Lindsey.
Yeah, that is what the reports are for him. And he's going to have to make a little bit of an adjustment, similar-ish to what Kendall George had to make, to where there's a little bit too much swinging mess that was part of his game. Just 28 games at the single-A level this past season, dealt with, I'm assuming, some injuries that he had. He posted a 122 WRC plus during those 22 games, but it also came with a near 32% strikeout percentage. That's got to drop down for Kellen Lindsey to be able to have some success. There is a little bit of power that's part of his game, a .11 ISO, which isn't bad. It got 7 doubles, 2 home runs that are part of the mix. So he has a little bit of power, 10 stolen bases. You mentioned the 80 grade speed. That is going to allow him to put himself in opportunities where he's going to be able to take advantage of balls in play, get some more base hits where others would be thrown out. Kellen Lindsey, super fast, a dynamic player. Again, high round draft pick, first draft pick in the 2024 draft. You're looking for somebody to be able to go out for. Kellen Lindsey is towards the top of the list to be able to go out and watch in Ontario this upcoming year.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to research Shin Ko. So give me just a second here, and I'll throw up some video on him. I'll let you go ahead and now analyze his statistics, and then if I actually, right here. Let me throw up Ching Shin Ko, a young man, left-handed hitter here that lots of power. He didn't have a great year last year. It was kind of a rough takeoff for him in professional baseball. Super talented, a young man that can run, a young man that has power, a young man that can play defense. This is a guy that is super talented, and it's just going to be a matter of time as far as him putting things together and getting things going. You can see the big body size there, the quiet swing, and just kind of the ease of which he does things there. So Ching Shin Ko, I think he's probably going to start in Ontario with the Tower Buzzers, and so a super, super talented young big dude. Size sticks out. He stays over the ball very well. Line drive percentage was almost 30% last year. It was right at 25%, which 25% is I think the major league average. And so this guy's just getting started, very much so a line drive type hitter. Very excited about Ching Shin Ko.
Okay, so if you're looking at somebody, and especially you have to take the complex numbers with at least somewhat of a grain of salt. But with what Ko was able to put up at the complex numbers, and this is with 226 plate appearances, 367, 487 with a 539 slugging percentage and a 175 WRC plus for Ching Shin Ko at the complex level with 17.3 walk percentage, 17.7 strikeout percentage, 4 home runs, 172 ISO. Those are elite type of numbers that Ko was able to put up. We played a handful of games, 32 games for the single-A Rancho Cucamonga Quakes at the time, put up an 88 WRC plus. Just wasn't a ton of power that was part of his game. Didn't have a home run, had a couple of doubles, 2 triples that were part of there. If he can tap into some of the power that his big frame has, you could see Ko really start to take out, especially if you have somebody like he has. He's walking near 17% of the time. That's creating a tremendous baseline for him. He's also not striking out an exorbitant amount of the time. At the single A level, you probably want this to go down just slightly, but it's at 23%. That's not insane for what Ko is able to produce, to where, man, if he could tap into some of that power, you could really see him project and go off. And what this kind of reminds, they're two completely different players. But if you remember this time last year, I think that what I remember is Eduardo Quintero didn't put up tremendous numbers in Rancho Cucamonga in 2024. But all of a sudden, he had a tremendous season and started to balloon and rise up a lot of the different rankings because there was a lot of trajectory with what he has, and he had so many good tools to be able to add to the mix, and all of that came together. If, and this will definitely happen because there's no reason to say this will definitely happen, but if a lot of the pieces can come together for Ko, especially offensively and especially power-wise, if he's able to tap into some of that in-game power with the tremendous walk percentage that he's able to have, and with his ability to be able to limit some of the strikeouts, if he taps into some of the in-game power at the single A level, man, watch out. You could see this as being one of the guys that could really be somebody that is part of the next wave of outfielders that are part of the mix, to where we're talking about DePaulo, we're talking about Hope, they're close to AAA, but look at this guy down in Ontario, Jin Ko. He is phenomenal. He has
every tool, no doubt.
He has the potential to be part of that mix.
Another guy that has every tool. I think he's probably going to start in Ontario just because he got injured a little bit last year. It's Youngsek Jang. This is a guy with the big change up there, the big fastball. I mean, look at that pitch. That's just a video game pitch. All the sliders, all the curveballs, all the breaking pitches, and really a ceiling for a fastball that I think could probably sit somewhere around 96, 97. Wonderful young man. I've communicated with him many different times. And so, just a young man who's totally bought into the Dodgers system. Youngsek Jang, I think probably will start at Ontario. I think he's talented enough to start at Great Lakes, but I think they might hold him back because of opportunity, if you will.
I think that's probably correct. And
don't quote me on it though. Yeah.
Don't doubt him. And some of the stuff could be determined by injuries that happen and stuff that pops up throughout the course of the season. And with Jang, he's got tremendous swing and miss type of stuff. Even last year with his 40 innings pitch that he had at Rancho, 31% strikeout percentage, walk percentage is definitely high. That has to be something that has to be fixed for him to be effective. And he's not somebody that gets a tremendous amount of ground balls. So if he needs to be somebody who limits the amount of walks at least a little bit, but the stuff is absolutely ridiculous. I think with Great Lakes, you even saw with some of the guys that got promoted towards the end of last year, Logan Tabling, Sterling Paddock, Christian Zazueta. There's a lot of different guys that are getting that promotion to Great Lakes, to where you could see Jang probably start in Ontario at the beginning of next year. Don't quote us on that at all. If he makes a start in Great Lakes, I'll be super pumped because you get an arm like this that's added to the mix. There's a lot of room to grow for Jang, and the organization was incredibly excited about him coming over, and there's a reason behind that. Super fun guy to be able to add to the clubhouse too. Okay,
one last guy, and then we're going to get out of here. And don't quote us again. He spent all last year at Rancho Cucamonga, so he might start with Great Lakes, but we're going to take a shot here. If he does start with Ontario, I'm going to say this: if you're an Ontario fan out there, Sterling Paddock, if he starts with the Ontario Tower Buzzers, do what you can to go see him as soon as you can, because I don't think you'll be there long. So if you get to see Sterling Paddock, just a young potential superstar out of Southern California. If you get to see him in Southern California with the Ontario Tower Buzzers, get out there as fast as you can. I don't think he's going to be there long. That's if he's there at all.
I've got bad news for Ontario Tower Buzzers fans. He's not going to be an Ontario. He's not. Okay. He's going to be in Great Lakes, and that is because he actually made 2 starts.
Oh, did he? Okay,
at the end of last year.
Good job, Austin.
And just the numbers that he put overall last year. I mean, you look at it. Okay, a 4 ERA, 92 innings pitched, 3.78 expected FIP. But some of the underlying numbers, 27% strikeout percentage with a sub 10% walk percentage, a 13% swing strike percentage. You just watch him go out and pitch, and it's really solid stuff that he has. To where if you talk to coaches within the organization, he's one of the guys that they go ahead and circle and point out and like that. This guy is really good.
Like they'll use terms like superstar, the next like Clayton Kershaw. They'll use stuff like that.
Yes. So he will not be Ontario, but if you're a fan of the Great Lakes Loons, which you should all be a fan of the Great Lakes Loons.
I tried. Ontario fans, I tried.
you should. Here's what you need to do: is you need to get yourself a flight from Ontario. You need to fly yourself out in April to go out to Great Lakes. Go watch a couple of Great Lakes Loons games. Go ahead and watch them.
In April?
Paddock. In April, in May, in June, in July.
Well, Chuck's
in
not
August.
coming out in April. He's coming out in June, Austin.
Yeah, this is for everybody else. You guys can come out in April. It's going to be great. I will be there.
You know why Chuck said he's coming out in June and not April?
Why is that?
Because it's freaking cold in Michigan in April, Austin.
Hey, that it gives you the perfect opportunity to be able to go out and cheer on your Great Lakes Loons because, man, if it takes the diehard fans to go out and will your team to victory during the cold months, and let's build an army of diehard fans that are out there to cheer on Sterling Paddock and the Great Lakes Loons this upcoming year.
Let's go over one more guy because he's in the chat here, and he got hurt. I believe he got hurt last year. Emil Morales, another very talented young infielder. This is a guy that was signed out of the DR in 2024. Okay, and I can tell you, Manny Pimentel point blank said he was the leader of the bunch, no doubt about it. So this is a guy with heavy, big time leadership skills. He has a big body. He's a great athlete. He kind of has that A-Rod look to him, if you will, whenever he plays. I personally think he's going to end up as a third baseman. I think he could be a shortstop, but with his size and with all the other shortstop potentials in the system, I think the one to go to third base, if any of the shortstops had to go to third base, I think naturally would be Emil Morales. It'll be interesting because you have Chase Harlan at third base. You got Cameron Decker that can play over there. You got Jake Geloff. You got Logan Wagner that could play. I mean, you got a million different options there. So who knows? But I think definitely probably by the time he's in the major leagues, Emil Morales will be a third baseman. But don't quote me on that either. So take us through Emil Morales.
Okay, so Emil Morales is kind of one of those borderline. Is he going to be in Ontario? Could he potentially be one of those guys that makes it up to Great Lakes? Because with the numbers that he put up last year, which he spent 59 games at the complex level, posted 130 WRC plus, 9 home runs during that part. Just really good numbers there. But once he made it up in his 30 games in Rancho last year, he batted 339, 420, 548 with a 160 WRC plus down the stretch. 5 home runs, 5 stolen bases, 12% walk percentage, 23% strikeout percentage. Emil Morales got better once he made the jump up to affiliate ball, to the point where, man, it becomes a question, especially when you have all these infielders, when you have Yohander Vargas that likely needs to spend some time in Rancho, or in Ontario, I should say. Kellen Lindsley probably needs to spend some time in Ontario. You have Chase Harlan, probably needs to spend some time in Ontario. It gets to the point where, man, there's a lot of different arms. Where do we put Emil Morales as part of this mix, and how do we get all these guys additional playing time? Well, is Emil Morales good enough to be able to make that jump up to Great Lakes, especially if, man, Elijah Hangline ended the season at the very end of the season in Tulsa. He could potentially make that jump. There could be hole at the middle infield or at the shortstop position.
Yeah, this is
or
Emil
third
Morales
base
here,
for Emil Morales coming up this upcoming year, to where you could see Emil Morales maybe in Ontario to start the season. But if he is as good as he is and he starts the season on Ontario, it's not going to be long before he's going to be in Great Lakes. And this is a kid, 19 years old, really young kid that's coming up through this mix. But his production is really showing at this point. I'm so pumped. You mentioned him during the video that we had with John Vicari. I think we're all excited for Emil Morales and his potential to be able to come up eventually, hopefully, to Great Lakes this upcoming season. It's only a matter of when does he start out with Ontario or not.
One last guy, and just a question: does Mike Sirota, since he got injured last year, I think it was obvious. I think he was going to make Tulsa by the end of last year if he hadn't got injured. Josue de Paula, Zaire Hope has already made it to Double-A Tulsa. They got there at the end of last year. Mike Sirota got injured. There's a logjam. Any chance that he starts with Great Lakes just because of the injury last year?
I think there's a potential with some of the logjam and injury, especially if they're like, hey, we want you to spend a couple of series with Great Lakes, just get your footing back right on the right track, make sure that everything's all good, then potentially go ahead and make the jump to Double-A, because you're going to be dealing with some similar situation to what you have with the infield in Ontario, with the outfield that you're going to have at the Double-A level. And even if it is something where Zach Earhart, James Tibbs, you're getting the promotion up to Triple-A, you're still going to have likely Josue de Paula, Zaire Hope, and Kendall George that at the very least are going to be filling in that outfield. And then you throw in some other guys that are going to be potentially part of the mix. Like, where are you going to put Cole Myers as part of this mix? Where are you going to put Damon Keith as part of this mix? How do you, Chris Newell probably up to AAA in the outfield part. But then how do you?
Where does Zach
are you able
Earhart
to-
start? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot of question marks of where you have to where production wise, Mike Sirota probably deserves to get the promotion to AA Tulsa, but it could just be hey, we want you to go ahead and get your footing right and start the season in Great Lakes. That's what the organization should do. I'm selfishly saying that because I want Mike Sirota to be back at least a little bit, get a couple of extra wins with the Loons, but talent wise, it depends on if they're able to fit him into the mix. And you also talked about some of the other moving pieces. There's a lot of guys that they're going to have to fit into the mix. It's not just a straight, hey, go ahead and bump him up. He has really good numbers. Yes, that plays a big role into the mix, but there are other guys that you want to be able to get some additional playing time. So how do they fit those puzzle pieces, especially with Mike Sirota, who was with Great Lakes for a very limited amount of time before he got his injury? Want to make sure he gets back onto the right footing. And do you want to push him with the jump from high A to double A, which we've seen as being one of the biggest or most difficult jumps for hitters to be able to make? Do you want to make that jump immediately right after injury, or do you want to start him off in Great Lakes where he gets a little bit more acclimated, gets right back into it, and if he has a little bit of success, then go ahead and let him make that promotion?
Okay, man, this has been a lot of fun. I've had to be looking at the chat, looking at Freddie Peralta stuff, so if I've looked away a lot tonight, that's because I've been having fun checking out all sorts of different stuff. Plus, I got a whole bunch of stuff going on my O-State Daily site too, with the transfer portal just ending, and I had a live show on that site right before that. So, and we also have a request to do a live show to where we're actually all watching the minor leagues games together. That would be kind of a fun show to do.
We're gonna have to find a game that I'm not attending with Great Lakes. We'll find a game that
oh, you can join on your phone. That's fine. We can be watching you in the background and talking to you while you're on your phone.
Yeah, well. Yeah, and it could also be something where we choose a date where they're in Dayton or Lake County, and I don't want to go to their stadiums, and we can go ahead and watch. We can go ahead.
It would be Lake County. It would be Lake County. Dayton, you wouldn't get to go because it'll be sold out.
With Dayton, it would probably be sold out, so I wouldn't be able to go. With Lake County,
by the way, Vicari wouldn't bite on the Lake County thing. He defended him. I was a little disappointed in that.
Yeah, well, he's got a little bit of past history with that, so he's a professional. But yeah.
I tried to rip their ass, and he just wouldn't have any of it. He was too professional.
I let's just say that I don't have a lot of nice words to say about Lake County.
Awesome.
I think actually they're probably going to be pretty good as a baseball club. I actually started doing some projections of some of the teams because I'm curious how the Loons stack up with some of the other teams. I'm actually super concerned with Lake County as a baseball club, only because I do not want Lake County to be able to win any sort of baseball games ever again. But John Vicari very much is a professional. We can have a little bit more fun at Lake County's expense.
No doubt. John Vicari, there he is, second to none, man. He is absolutely awesome.
He's amazing.
Yeah, no, him and Brad Tunney, man, they're so fun to listen to. It's always a disappointment when they're on the road because you don't get to hear the minor leagues. The what?
I was about to say you can't watch it with their feed. You got to watch it with the home feed.
I've listened on the
you got to download the 100.
And they're not. I tried to find them on iHeartRadio, and I asked John that they're not anywhere on iHeartRadio, so you literally have to go to the MiLB app and play the audio from the MiLB app, and by that time you might as well watch the video.
No, you just got to download the 100.9 the Mitt. They have their own app.
See, he didn't tell me about that. I asked him about that. He didn't. That must be new.
Yeah, well, that's what I do when I have it on my phone. Just download their app. And
hey, we have a $5 super chat from Alex the God. Thank you so much, Alex. You're an absolute rock star. Thanks, guys. Appreciate all your hard work. Go Dodgers. So we have been rambling on for a long time, almost an hour and a half here, because we love talking Dodgers baseball. Any final thoughts, Austin?
No, it's been a fun show. Obviously, the Dodgers did not get Freddie Peralta. He went to the New York Mets. It's okay.
Good for them.
And honestly, I'm totally fine with that scenario.
I think most Dodgers fans are.
Yep. The Dodgers are already set up with the move, the official move. Kyle Tucker is a Los Angeles Dodger. That makes the team so good. Corresponding move, Michael Ciani designated for assignment. I don't think this prevents them from making additional moves going forward. I would still anticipate that the Dodgers would want to bring Michael Ciani back just so that he is organizational depth in the system to be able to have as a defensive first center field option potentially for October, similar to
next Justin Dean's what you're saying.
He'd be the next Justin Dean type of role. And if they can make that work, great. If they don't, they'll find some sort of other option, or they'll just keep Andy Pages out in center field, or they have a little bit of flexibility to where Tommy Edman can play center field, and that's not a bad option either. There's a lot of different avenues that the Dodgers team could go down. I don't think that prevents them from making additional moves like trading a Ryan Ward. They absolutely should still go out and make that type of move going forward, or at least that's just my opinion of what they should do, just to do right by Ryan Ward, and because I see Alex Call as being a better fit for this roster. But the team is so well set up for this upcoming year. I couldn't be more excited. I'm already starting to put together. I actually have, it's funny that we talked about this, starting to map out a lot of different things where players could potentially go within the system. I'm so excited for minor league baseball. I'm so excited for the Dodgers to be able to go out and make another run. Baseball is right around the corner. I think it's a month from today is when we're going to be having Dodgers spring training games. I think it's a month
college
from
baseball
today.
starts for real then, like real games.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah. Baseball is right around the corner.
It is.
I can't wait for it, man.
I can't, man. Austin, great job. Thanks, man.
Appreciate your case.
All you wonderful Dodgers dogs, you are the best. We are already over 1,000 views. This has been just an absolutely incredible show tonight. Incredible support. It's always so humbling to see the amount of support you wonderful Dodgers dogs give this channel. Thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. Thank you for the super chat. Alex God, you Dodgers dogs are the absolute best. And as always, never forget, it's a great day to be a Dodger.